everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CISL 650.
Let somebody do the dirt, right? Buy some news, buy some jerk, buy some grease bar.
Hey, and welcome back to the show. This is Strata.Life on CISL 650. I'm Zach Spencer, and we have our experts here from Quay Pacific Property Management, Drew Grout. We have Cameron Carter, president of Normac Insurance Appraisals and Depreciation Reports. And next up, our questions go to Alex Limongelli, public sector manager at Waste Management. All right, so this is the kind of the dirty end of Strata living, right? So the stuff that, well, I mean, you know, we just look at it as garbage. Yeah, we're talking about the waste and recycling. I mean, to you, it's vitally
environmental
important.
Solutions.
It's
That's
environmental
what they are,
solutions.
really.
But, you know, I'm guessing most people that live in the building, it's just the garbage, right?
Yeah.
And you're here to educate us that it's more than that.
It is more than that.
It's more than that. It's all about recycling and making sure everything goes to the right place and setting up proper
diversion. And really trying to get as much waste into a recycling or a compostable program as opposed to going to landfill, which is obviously, you know, the worst of the two environmental options, right? So that's what we want to encourage people to do, and it's actually quite simple to do. But it requires some thought process. It's not like the olden days, right? I mean,
which was just the garbage. Because
exactly.
everything went in the green bags.
Everything just went into a garbage can.
All right. Now, let's get into our questions. Okay, we've had like a record snowy and wet winter with the freezing and the snow. What can the Stratas do to help you get the recycling and the garbage out?
Right. That's a great question. In fact, today is another great day in Vancouver with snowfall. But you know, the misconception here, of course, is that these trucks can just plow through anything. And really, when you think about a 10-ton garbage truck, plus its load on top of it, you know, when icy conditions are out there, it's really difficult for these trucks to maneuver around cities. And a lot of times, you know, you'll hire a plowing company and they'll push the snow up against the garbage bins. It makes it really hard for us to access those bins. And so to help us help you get service during, you know, we wanted to offer some good tips. And the first one, of course, is make sure that wherever you have your garbage bin, if it's outside, make sure that it's clear of snow and it's salted so that the trucks can have access to that bin. Make sure you're not piling up snow around it, making it hard for us to maneuver the bin if we have to move it, because a lot of times we do move it.
You have to roll it out first, right?
Yeah, and if the garbage bin under extreme conditions is actually in an underground, I mean, you have to think, you know, to pull that bin out of a driveway when the snow conditions are like that. So maybe another option could be to call your account manager at Waste Management and find a solution for maybe bringing in something that you could put on the curb. Maybe we could move that bin. If we anticipate that the weather is going to be that bad, you want to make sure, you know, especially in a 100-unit building, the last thing you need is this overflowing garbage bin, because people are still throwing out garbage. They're still going about their day. Yeah. And if the trucks can't get there, you got a real serious situation. So maybe it's a call ahead where we can find a different place for the bin outside, so that we're still able to access the bin. You're still able to provide the service. But most importantly, manage your waste in those conditions. At the very best, if you're on a weekly schedule, you know, usually the snow doesn't last that long, unlike this last time. Mm-hmm. But it really did cause a lot of hiccups. And so, you know, the other thing is make sure you talk to your account manager, make sure you have your account number and all your information. So when you call into our customer service department, they can log it and make sure we get you in queue for service. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of some of the things that you can help.
Now, Drew, some stratas don't have snow removal and salting, right? So that's a real handicap to Waste Management when they come to pick up the bins.
Well, in cases like that, we try to stress strongly that there's a need for proper salting and snow removal in those key areas. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see the same thing with sidewalks
and then the ramp to the underground, all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's a particular challenge. That's exactly what he's talking about. Yeah. I mean, the truck, in cases like that, probably doesn't go down to get it, although in some cases you may be able to.
In the summertime, a lot of times we can stop and kind of pull the bin out, and because there's clearance, we can clear it. Yeah. In this kind of condition, we won't even try it. We won't do it because we know that there's a risk, and we're not going to put we're not going to risk it.
We have services through the provider to have the bins pulled out. Mm-hmm. And sure, a pickup truck can maybe go up and down that ramp in some snowy conditions, but you're pulling, you know, some of these 6-yard bins behind you out onto the road. I mean, the last thing you need is for one of these things to start sliding backwards.
No. It becomes more of a problem than the actual waste itself, because then you get into all sorts of. But also, even you got to think these drivers are jumping in and out of trucks all the time. You know, even for each individual, even if everybody in a townhouse complex that had door-to-door collection, if they even had their own bag of salt and they salted the way, and when they plowed the snow or when they shoveled their snow, they leave room where they can put those bins so the truck can come in and access them and not injure himself, because there's the injury side of things is another delay. You know, as we mentioned, it's not just getting the trucks there, but it's also if you have multiple injuries with our drivers, then you have to replace them with a different driver, and he may not know that route as well, and it just continues to create hiccups. And as you've seen in the last bad storm, which is the worst I've seen here in Vancouver, there was a lot of challenges for every municipality. It wasn't just for Waste Management, it's for everybody.
On the plus side, Waste Management's been very good in advising us when they've been unable to service a building for those reasons. And of course, we scramble with the councils to try and correct the situation so that next time around, or depending, next day even, come back and service it.
Yeah, we have a Snow Dogs program, which is an out-dial program that when we know that a route's going to be affected, all those customers on that route get a phone call from us to let them know. And again, we reiterate these tips. You know, please make sure the bin is clear, and also make sure you're reporting it into Waste Management if you've had a miscollection, because it really does go into a database and it filters through their operations and allows them to kind of, I guess they prioritize the calls where they can send the trucks.
Yeah.
But you know what? This too will pass, as they say.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll be getting to spring sometime. You know, it's funny, the last snow we had finally went away, and I saw the little white flowers coming up from the ground. I thought, oh, spring. Then the snow came again.
Yeah.
All right, so spring will come, and, you know, people start to get rid of larger items, the classic spring cleaning, right?
Yeah.
What can you do to eliminate people putting, like, old sofas and, you know, maybe someone's doing a rental, leaving sinks and things. Like, what can you do to make sure that that doesn't end up in the garbage room?
Yeah, the post-Christmas purge where everybody's got, like, computers, and you know what? And garbage rooms are so anonymous in these multifamily buildings. You really don't know who's throwing what. But the reality is Metro Vancouver imposes some pretty strict fines on haulers for bringing in electronics, drywall, materials that are not accepted in the landfill. So it's really important that the Strata understand that fine, in to a certain extent, it affects everybody's pricing in one way or another, because we can't continue to incur, because we can't see a computer screen at the bottom of a bin when he's dumping it. Even though there's cameras, all they can do is take a snapshot of it and they know where it came from. Once it's in the truck, it's going to the landfill. And so it's really important that you can call Waste Management once or twice a year. We call it the Fall into Spring program, or Spring into Fall, for example, where you bring in a larger bin and you put it in an area where everybody can access it, and feel free to just throw everything in it.
Even over the weekend.
Over the weekend. And so everybody, instead of, you know, you have that computer, you have that carpet, you have that leftover this and leftover that from boxes and whatever, just throw it into the bin. It actually goes to a facility that dumps the material and recycles what can be recycled. And you'd be surprised that only maybe 20 to 30% of that actually ends up going to garbage. It's a very inexpensive program. It's a phone call away to your account manager. And it's a really easy way to, if you don't give them the avenue to be able to do it, then
they try to cheat.
They're going to cheat.
Okay, now that brings me to my next question about electronics. Like, we have, you know, everything is disposable now. You get rid of your flat screen. Like, people are replacing flat screens now, right? Yeah. They're kind of getting to the age where they're getting updated. So what do you do with an old flat screen or computer or whatever?
Well, you can take it to any Return It Depot free of charge. Quay Pacific has a program with them. You take it to them. They actually bale it and ship it out to Quay where it gets recycled.
You know what? I had a 55-inch flat screen, like when the first ones came out, and it finally died, and it was probably 10 years old or 12 years old. And I took it Best Buy. I took it to them, and they said, yeah, we'll take it.
Did you buy another TV from them?
No. I
Really?
just took it down there.
Yeah.
And they said, oh yeah, we recycle.
Yeah, so there you go. But the Return It Depot is kind of like they're the organization that's been contracted by Oncorp to receive recycle. And there's way more of those.
Well, what I did was I looked it up online.
Yeah.
Where are the recycling depots for electronics near me? And it listed Best Buy.
It did.
So they obviously pack it up and send it to them.
That was the closest to you. So there, or you can go to the Recycling Council of British Columbia website. There's lots of resources there for recycling other materials. I mean, why put it in your garbage when you know that there's a fine that's going to cost everybody, when you can easily just take it to a Return It Depot? Same with mattresses. You can take to any transfer station for $25. You drop off your old mattresses there. So, you know, sometimes you just have to take your own waste away.
All right. Now, what about food waste? This is the big one in the last few years that we're now separating our food.
Yeah, great. It's so easy to do. And
But the question I always have is, food is biodegradable. So why do we have to separate it? It's going to turn back to dirt anyway.
No, well, it's that is a good point. It's true, but the reality is that most of that waste is actually ending up in garbage bags. And what happens when there's no oxygen to allow the moisture in the food to evaporate, it really turns into methane gas. And that's really the problem. What the compost facilities do is they take that material and they put it through an anaerobic digester. They actually...
I have that one of those.
Yeah.
It's called my stomach.
Yeah, exactly. and they turn out clean dirt at the back end of this thing in 8 weeks. That's sold to landscape cities. So...
Yeah.
It's a very easy program to do. We do it in multifamily. City of New Westminster is a great story. They're diverting 50 tons a week of food waste from their multifamily buildings that was otherwise going to landfill. So it's a pretty simple program to do. It's not very expensive. It's not a large bin that takes up a lot of space. But the education component is what's crucial there.
Is that a smellier bin, though, typically?
Not at all. If you do it right, it's actually not smelly at all. I mean, paper, of course, absorbs the moisture. Everything with food waste is about the moisture in the food. If there's you could take a sandwich, a slice of bread, and you can put it on the counter, and you can put it in a Ziploc bag. The one on the counter is all the moisture is going to evaporate, and it's going to become stale bread. But the one in the Ziploc bag, because there's no oxygen, will start to create mold. And that's the perfect. If you want to do an experiment, that's the perfect experience to see the difference when you wrap your food waste with paper, you line your paper. When you're going to take your food waste down to the garbage room, you're there. Newspaper is fantastic for compost. The carbon in the newsprint is great. Throw a couple sheets of. Everybody can do that. You throw a couple sheets of newspaper, and it stops any problems with rodents and any type of odors.
All right, we have a few more questions outstanding for you that we'll get to towards the end of the show. That's Alex Limongelli, Public Sector Manager at Waste Management. Then after the break, we're going to get into depreciation reports, insurance appraisals. This is vitally important because we mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's now sort of mandated starting 2013, and anybody who's on
both the appraisals and the...
Yeah,
that's correct.
Anybody who's on a strata, council, or if you're involved with your strata, you want to listen to this. All about Strata.Life next on CISL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CISL 650.